Amnesty International is expressing concern that Canada is backsliding on Indigenous rights. The CBC's Brett Forrester joins us now live with more on this story. So Brett, tell us more about what Amnesty is saying.
Amnesty International is concerned that Canada is going in the wrong direction on this issue. Behind the concerns are things like the Carney government's Bill C-5, the Building Canada Act, to fast-track approvals for projects deemed to be of national importance. Here is what Amnesty Canada Secretary General Keti Nivyabandi told me about that in an interview in Ottawa.
Finding, particularly when it relates to Indigenous rights, that we are stepping back. We're rolling back on Indigenous rights, particularly with the expansion and the, of programs of major infrastructure projects.
So, Arthi, the organization issued its global annual report yesterday, singling out the Carney government's Bill C-5 and similar laws passed at the provincial level. The report says these laws threatened Indigenous people's right to self-determination while Canada expanded extraction projects on their land without their consent. So some strong language there. More generally, Nivyabandi said she's concerned that human rights could take a back seat for the federal Liberals as they pursue other priorities, including boosting defense spending and growing the economy.
So now, how do the conclusions from Amnesty's report align with what Indigenous leaders have been saying?
These findings echo what Indigenous leaders have been saying for months, and it comes at a time when First Nations leaders continue to raise these concerns. The Assembly of First Nations said yesterday that its national chief will be at the United Nations this week. She intends to raise some of these human rights issues, specifically the situation in BC. There's a lot of controversy facing the provincial government there about whether it will continue implementing the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Last summer, when the Carney government introduced this bill federally, there was vigorous criticism, a lot of pushback. There were promises of resistance. So the Liberals promised that they would respect Indigenous rights when implementing this project. So clearly, a lot of people, Amnesty, the Assembly of First Nations, will be watching how the Liberals balance these issues now that they have a majority in the House of Commons. I did contact the federal government for a response to these findings. I haven't heard back yet. It is worth noting that these aren't new concerns from Amnesty International. The organization has taken some strong positions on Indigenous rights in Canada in the past, whether that is the lack of access to clean water in some First Nations communities or the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in federal prisons. What is new is this idea that Canada is going backward, that Canada is going in the wrong direction, and I'm very curious to see how the government responds to that criticism, Arthi.
Thanks for this, Brett. That is the CBC's Brett Forrester reporting from Ottawa.